Hey, I'm Adam from Unstoppable Acting Studio, and let's talk about making strong choices or bold choices as an actor. So let's use this as an example. Gary Oldman, one of the greatest actors of all time, really known actually for making bold choices within his work. He's played Winston Churchill, he's played Dracula. One of his most famous roles is a little 10-minute scene that he did in a film called True Romance way back in the early 90s, where he was a pimp with a Jamaican accent who was very flamboyantly dressed, and it can be said, a very bold choice, Gary. Considering Gary is an English actor, he's from London, he's quite cockney, and he's quite reserved and quiet actually in real life. And to transform himself into this, it really does stand out. But the fact that it does stand out is because he did it with truth and authenticity, and we really believed the character. You almost forget that it's Gary Oldman playing this character. So quite often you'll hear this: make bold, strong choices in auditions and you will stand out. Let's break down what that means. First of all, it doesn't mean just show up and be as different as you possibly can. If we look back at Gary Oldman and his choices in the film True Romance, well, actually what he did was he had a firm knowledge of the script that he was working from, and he made some key choices and decisions based on his knowledge of the script. He didn't come from it thinking, I really fancy playing a pimp with a Jamaican accent, I'm just going to do that for this role. He looked at the role, and then in consultation with the director, they then made these decisions on what the character would wear, how the character would sound, how the character would move, all of these things. So making bold choices is always based in the truth of the script. An example of it, for perhaps some of you are working on a Shakespeare classical piece. Now, the fact that Shakespeare was written in the Elizabethan era doesn't actually necessarily mean that when we show up for an audition with it, that we need to bring this sort of classical element to it. Perhaps you've realised some truth in the script that can be applied to the year that we're in right now, in 2022 or the 21st century. I once auditioned for the part of Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew, and Petruchio, he's quite a bold, brash guy's guy, and I just sort of thought, what if he had been on a night out previous to the scene that I'd been asked to perform, and I actually found a traffic cone outside, and this traffic cone became quite key to how I played and performed the scene, and it did make it memorable, but because I made it key to how I was communicating throughout the scene, that Petruchio, on his way into the scene, had picked up this traffic cone, as people do when they've been on a night out and they've drank a little bit. Certainly in the UK, that's what tends to happen, traffic cones get stolen. And it became a thing to play off of as an actor. Now, if I just picked up a traffic cone without any justification or without any link to how I was performing the scene, then it would have jarred, it would have fell flat. Like, people would have been like, why is he doing that? But if you can justify it somewhere in the text, why not go for it and give it a go? Always remember that. That's key maybe to making strong, bold choices, is that there's a life that comes before the scene that you're performing and a life that comes after the scene that you're acting. And really what we're seeing is the middle point when you're performing it. So have a think about in real detail what has happened 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes before the scene that could realistically have happened going into the scene, and see if you can bring some of those elements into it as well, and that will really help you establish and make some real bold, strong choices. As you're looking at your script, as you're looking at the material that you're working from, mine it for clues. There might just be something that's just alluded to, just mentioned very briefly by the writer, that actually becomes something that's really essential to your character. Like, does the writer, for instance, say that the character shivers at one point? Well, let's not take that shiver just in isolation in that 2-3 seconds that the writer's asked for it. Let's start to think, where does that shiver come from? Is it the environment that they're in? Is it particularly cold in there? And is that something that will feed you for the whole scene, that the character's really cold to the point where they have to shiver at one point in the scene? Is it a bit of a twitch or some kind of involuntary thing that the character reacts to? I don't know, but It's just an example of how you can mine the text a bit like a detective, mining it for clues as to how you can start to make really interesting choices as an actor as well. Finally, quite often people think they have to be really different and really out there when they're making bold, strong choices as an actor. Whereas actually sometimes the strongest choice you can make is have it come from you. We are all completely unique, and even though Hamlet's been played hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times, it's never been played in quite the same way, because every actor that's played those parts has been completely unique. It's come from them, it's come from their own personal place. So quite often having faith in what we can actually bring personally as actors is the strongest choice that you can make. Not reaching for something that's completely out there, completely different, completely crazy. Just going through our lived experiences, our truthful experiences, bringing that to the role, and coming and presenting a role that's full of life and character that's true and personal to us. All right, that was a very brief breakdown of how to make strong, bold choices as an actor. I wish you all the best on your journeys into exploring this within your acting craft as well. If you like this sort of thing, then please click that like button and subscribe. I'd hugely appreciate it. And yeah, I hope to see you around in a future video, people. Thank you very much.